You booked it, episode 119. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. Every episode is a masterclass on how to move your career forward. And if you want even more, head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the email community where we dig deep into what you can be doing right now to help book that next gig. And now, let's do this. Alrighty, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Enoch Augustus Scott. Are you ready for this, Enoch?
I am so ready.
All right. Enoch is an actor, singer, dancer, and comedian who has been working in Las Vegas for almost 2 decades. He graduated from Duke University with a degree in theater and women's studies, and since then has had a wide and varied career. He started in the Los Angeles and Las Vegas production shows of Tony and Tina's Wedding, created the role of Tony Whitcomb in the original Las Vegas cast of Sheer Madness, and redefined the role of Swan in the now infamous final cast of Cannibal the Musical. Most recently, he created the starring role of Enoch in the Las Vegas cult classic Zombie Burlesque, which he has starred in for 6.5 years. He has been both Dr. Frankfurter in The Rocky Horror Live and Hedwig in Hedwig and the Angry Inch at the House of Blues at Mandalay Bay. He is the author of several plays and one-man shows, as well as the producer, editor, and star of PGW Pro Gay Wrestling, Season 1 of which can be seen on Amazon TV. He is the co-creator and star of the musical Baretones of Love. He is a practicing Buddhist and loves his cats, Ahab and Kiara. Enoch, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, fill in the gaps, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry?
Didn't leave many gaps in that intro. No, I've been doing theater all my life. I started off doing Fiddler on the Roof was the first show I ever did when I was 11 in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I just have always wanted to be on stage. And so I've been in Las Vegas I came out here with Tony and Tina's Wedding, which I had done in Los Angeles. And then they needed some help with the Las Vegas cast. It's supposed to be 2 weeks, and that turned into 2 years. And then I started doing what a lot of performers in Las Vegas do, which is convention work. And I hosted slot tournaments and special events and that kind of thing for a long time, and was able to make a living doing that. And then I got back into doing shows and stuff, and have done a lot of shows. And mostly now I've transitioned to trying to write some stuff, both as a songwriter, a lyricist, and a script writer. And I just show up, honestly. If you've got a paycheck, I'm there. I'm the most available baritone in Las Vegas. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Perfect. And let's move on to this next section here. And Enoch, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
I am a practicing Buddhist, and so my favorite quote is from Nichiren Daishonin, who's the Buddha of the latter day. And my favorite quote, he says, "Drink sake only at home with your wife and chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Suffer what there is to suffer, enjoy what there is to enjoy. Regard both suffering and joy as a fact of life, and continue chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo no matter what happens." My favorite part of that quote is the suffer what there is to suffer, enjoy what there is to enjoy, and regard both suffering and joy as a fact of life. And that has really helped me get through good and bad times.
Yeah, for sure. Because what is life, or we don't even really appreciate, or it would be impossible, I should say, to appreciate anything good if we don't have the lows, right? You have to have the dynamic of life.
Yeah, for sure. It's in art, in life, in anything. I think chiaroscuro is the Italian art form of light and dark, where you just work with blacks and whites and shades of it, and that things only exist in counterpoint to their opposite. So if you don't suffer, you don't know what it is to enjoy things. And if you don't enjoy things, you don't know what it is to suffer. And you have to learn that when the Buddha first, came out from under the Bodhi tree and gave his first teaching, which is that all suffering comes from desire. So you have to cut yourself off from desires. That was just his first. It was called the expedient means, a teaching to get, and he taught his whole life. The Buddha lived to be 80, and I think he was 33 or so underneath the Bodhi tree. So his teaching grew as he grew older. And he eventually, his final teaching was that our desires are enlightenment. Our desires are why we're on this planet. And figuring out how to fulfill those desires in a humane Buddhist way, as it were, is the game. Trying to figure out how to get what you want and why you want to get that thing, and to do it in a noble way that doesn't hurt other people is the game.
Yes, wonderful insight. And let's get into this next section now. And Enoch, of course, you are an entertainer. I am an entertainer. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, and personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yeah, there's an outrageous amount of fun and excitement being an entertainer, doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
COVID, just kidding, because we haven't come out the other side yet. No, but I'm an old man and I've been doing this for a bit. I was around for the 2008 financial crisis, and I've been in Vegas for 7 years. Like I said, I started doing Tony and Tina's, but then got into more corporate work and hosting work and MC work and that kind of stuff. And then got back into, through sheer madness, got back into working on stage and got my equity card. And then the bottom fell out from everything. And I wasn't working, and there were no shows, and there were no conventions. It wasn't quite as bad. It wasn't like it is now. Nothing's like it is now, but it was pretty rough. And I had to figure out a way to keep on doing what I wanted to do and keep my name out there and figure out a way somehow. And I was like living off of unemployment. But so I would take free gigs, just anything that I could. And I wrote my own one-man shows, of course, which made no money, and did them at the Onyx, back when there was an Onyx theater here in Vegas. And just kept on creating and kept on producing, because honestly, it's the only thing I know how to do. Like, it's what I'm doing right now. All I know how to do is smoke marijuana, buy action figures, and create. That's all I know how to do. And so I don't know what to tell you. And at this point, I'm 47 years old. So I would have to retrain. I'm like a guy who's worked at a factory his whole life, and the factory shuts down, and has to completely retrain for a career. Obviously, I went to Duke University. I'm not an idiot. I can write. I have lots of, I have skills and stuff. But in terms of practical, like, career experience, it's been in the industry. But I kept on creating, and eventually things broke with Zombie, which was a blessing. But it was a lot of doing shows that didn't run. I have a firm belief that if you're an actor in Las Vegas, there aren't a lot of use for actors in Las Vegas. It's mostly a dancer singer town. And so if they need somebody who can talk, if there's an acting audition, you have to go to it. You have to go to every single one, because there just aren't that many. And even if you don't get it, it's good experience and it's good practice. So I did all the shows that would run for 2 months and then close, and then eventually Zombie hit. But I think that was you get your equity card, and then all of a sudden you think, oh, I've made it, and then the rug gets pulled out from underneath you financially in the whole country, and you have to figure out a way to get back on your feet. That's what I did.
Yeah, great. And you're so good at Zombie. It's such a great role.
Thank you. I hope I get to do it again. 6.5 years. I loved every moment of it. I had so much creative freedom because I helped them build it. I was there from the beginning, and the whole thing was just my style and everything. So I just loved it. It was a dream come true. It's a dream come true, honestly.
Sure. And let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
When I was a very young child, I watched the original Batman TV series. They've come to call it Batman 66, but the stuff with Burt Ward and Adam West and Julie Newmar, and Eartha Kitt and Frank Gorshin as the Riddler. And there's an episode, I'm pretty sure it's Frank Gorshin playing the Riddler, and his scheme is to dress up like Charlie Chaplin and somehow steal money from a movie studio, maybe. So in the course of it, Frank Gorshin playing the Riddler does a Charlie Chaplin impression. And the classic tramp thing where he's swinging the cane and doing the funny duck walk. So I think I was 5, 6, 7, and I can remember the sheetrock in the foyer. The aunts and uncles were over, and I did the little Charlie Chaplin walk that I had seen the Riddler do, and they all laughed, and I have been chasing that laugh for 40 years since.
Oh, that's so cool. It's such a definitive moment. It's so great that you remember it so clearly like that.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot of things, but that moment is just sort of clearly etched into my soul.
Oh, so good. And I want to piggyback on that real quick and talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
So it's sort of the end of the story that I started with the 2008 financial crisis, the zombie. I had some gigs and stuff, but I wasn't really working. I was doing twice a month or so. I was doing a gig as an 80s rocker at the Bourbon Room at the Venetian. That was this like lounge that was open in conjunction with Rock of Ages that was running. And so it was the Bourbon Room, and they had the cocktail waitresses, of course, had to dance because like their life isn't hard enough. And then they had a host who would come out and talk to the crowd, dance with the crowd, hype it up for the night. So when I was doing that like once a week or 3 times a month or something, making some money at that. And the audition notice for Zombie Burlesque came, and they needed a host for a burlesque show. And like all I've ever wanted to do was like host a burlesque show. And I was like, this is me. This is me. This is my show. I just knew it when I saw the notice on Vegas Auditions. So they were having an audition, I think, like that Saturday or something. And then not Sunday, but then Monday again. Might have been Friday. So I didn't make the first one. But I was like, okay, I'm going to the Monday one. The night before, I had to work the Bourbon Room, which was like till 2 or 3. And then so you don't get home till 4. You don't go to sleep. Like I hadn't planned a song. I was just not prepared. And I called my best friend, Katie Kenner, and I was like, I am not prepared. I have this track of this stupid song and I'm not prepared. And I don't want to go in there and make a fool of myself. And she was like, just go. And I was like, okay. So I just went and I like talked to them. David wasn't there, I don't think yet. David Sachs, the producer, wasn't there yet for the auditions. And so I just like sang something, I think, and then just had to sit there and wait for David. And in the meantime, this other kid gets up there, this thin young kid gets up there and like sings Maria from West Side Story, like the prettiest angel you've ever heard in your life. And I was like, if this is what they're going for, I'm outsies. But I was like, okay, listen, Enoch, what can you do, brother? Zombies. Like, how about the Vincent Price monologue from Beat It? So I Google the Vincent Price monologue from Beat It on my phone. And like I'm practicing it in my head and stuff. And David shows up, and I'll tell you what, the first thing that was, who would later be in the show, but April Leah Party, who was the assistant choreographer kind of person, was at the table. I walked up, I was like, hi, I'm Augustus Scott. And I was like, there's nobody else in this town who can do this show but me. Because I knew what talent was in the town, and I knew nobody could do it but me. And she thought I was the cockiest son of a in the world. And she told me this later, and she probably still thinks it. But I Googled the Vincent Price monologue, and when David got up there, I went up, said hello, and did the Vincent Price monologue from Beat It in the Vincent Price voice, and said, hire me, and then walked out. And I didn't hear anything for forever. And it was like things were it's always darkest right before they turn on the lights. And it was dark. And I was leaving, coincidentally enough, Katie Kenner's house, my friends, who had told me just to go. And I was driving down Tropicana, the corner of Tropicana and Decatur, heading east back to my place. And the phone rang, and it was David Sachs. And he was like, hey, do you want the job? And I said, yes. And he said, you haven't even heard the offer. I was like, I don't care. And I went in, and that's how I got Zombie. And they started me off really cheap, and I showed just how valuable I was to it. And I got 3 raises before the show opened. And that is my favorite book that moment.
Brilliant. That's so good. And like you said, in that show, you were part of the creation, and you got to have so much of yourself in that show and make it what you thought was also funny, right?
Yeah, I was being they were building their plane in midair and they were trying to get it up by October 31st. I think we started October 2nd. It obviously wasn't going to be ready by then. But nobody in this town is a script writer and nobody in this town knows how to talk. So I have a unique market on a certain, or just an angle on a certain market because I do have those skills. And they were worrying about the sound and the dancing and all the choreography and stuff. There were 8 dancers and a girl singer and me, or 6 dancers, a girl singer and me. They kept on being like, okay, we're going to give you a script. We're going to give you a script. And it was getting closer and closer. And I was like, one day I just decided, I was like, I'm going to start talking. And when they don't like what I have to say, they'll tell me to shut up. And so I just started talking and they let me talk.
And the show is born.
Yeah, for reals. And then I helped write the lyrics to the opening number and the best number in the show, Eating Penis Doesn't Make You Gay. I helped write those lyrics. And yeah, it was a wonderful process. Anything you do for a long period of time, it gets fraught. There's peaks and valleys, darks and lights. And doing a show for 6.5 years is a mental game more than anything else. It takes a certain skill set. You know what I'm saying? It is, most actors, especially these days, just never really get to sit in something for that long. And these movie stars who go to Broadway and do a 3-month run think they've somehow like given birth to a baby or done something that no one else has ever done. Like, how did you do that 3 months of the same role? And then they go on to the next thing. And to really sit in a role for 6 years and be present, not to phone it in.
Yeah.
To be present every single night as much as possible is a unique battle for
Yeah,
showsies. Because
absolutely.
you start to go crazy. You think, have I said that already? Because you've
Yeah,
said these words over and over again.
of course. And let's move on and talk about the present for a moment. What
All right.
projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And it's a weird time, right? We're amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
I don't know about all that big picture stuff. All I know is that, like anything, you either look at it as an obstacle or as an opportunity. And honestly, the ability to just sit and be with oneself is an incredible gift. And so many people can't do it. And that's why it's hard to do. To just sit and be like, okay, this is my life. This is my house. This is where I live. This is what I eat. This is who I am. And if you're not comfortable with that, then it's going to be hard for you. These past months have been hard for you. And a lot of people wanted to just start creating and putting junk up on Facebook Live immediately, like on March 18th. And my thing was like, you need to just sit and be, because I'm going to tell you, whatever you're putting out there right now is from the before times. And people aren't going to be interested, in my opinion, in the before times. Whatever you are cooking is done because the whole world has been upended. So it's just time to sit and be. And then if you're a true artist, you'll create. But you need to have some perspective on an event and a feeling before you can create anything of substance or lasting value, right? But I knew the minute Tiger King came out, I knew I had to do something with it. Not just about it, but the reaction to it. And so I started writing with my writing partner, Mark Weary, who I wrote Baritones of Love with. I would just send him, I was like, Tiger King. And I don't want to do a show because we're not going to be able to have the rights. Someone else is going to do the Broadway Tiger King. And that's not really what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in setting that man's life to music. But I am interested in writing songs about, inspired by that man, that woman, and America's reaction to it in the middle of this thing. So we just came up with song ideas. And to me, I keep on calling it like an old school concept album.
Yeah.
With the idea that it might be staged eventually. But I just want to sit. People are so eager to jump to the end and don't want to, and I get it, especially results minded produce people like that. Is it going to be a show? What is it? Like right now, it's just some songs and a concept. And then let's see if people even like that. And then we can talk about the next thing. But it's when parents are like, oh, I can't wait till my kid's out of his terrible twos. And I can't wait till they're out, oh, I can't wait till they're teenage. Oh, I can't wait till they're not, can't wait till they're in college. And
Yeah.
you look around and you've wished your child's whole life away. So a creative project is like a child and you have to just sit and be where it is. And so We just have, so we've written this. So now we have like 6, 7, 8, 9 songs called, and I call it the Tiger Cycle, because I also thought of it as an old school song cycle,
Yeah.
which is an art form I don't think that's been written for 400 years. So it's like a song cycle concept album. And it's called The Tiger Cycle, the completely unauthorized and in no way official musical of how Joe Exotic and COVID-19 changed America. And just a nice little concise title.
Yeah, concise title. It has all the highlights.
Just something you can put on a t-shirt. And so we're in the process of doing a virtual workshop of it. So we're going to put up the songs that we have done. I've got Ashley Fuller. I don't know if you remember her, but she's just one of the most dynamic singers in Las Vegas. Just
Yes.
so incredible. And she's going to play Carol. I'm playing Joe. And then I think Trump and Melania are the narrators / Greek chorus of it. And they have some songs. And then, yeah. So that's one project. I know we're like in the rehearsal stages right now. So look for that. It'll be virtual. And then I've been watching British panel shows all summer. I have BritBox, which is the BBC ITV streaming service, but you can also get them on YouTube. And do you know what I'm talking about? Like QI and
Yeah.
Mock of the Week and 8 out of 10 Cats. And I've been watching a lot of Ultraman Japanese tokusatsu stuff, because I clearly am having trouble being in America right now. So I just watch other countries' media. And all I want is a British panel show to host of my own. So bad. It's all I want. And so I've written like this unnamed Vegas game show, and I'm working on that with someone. I literally was like doing the script last night, putting some finishing touches on it, like a test script. It would have games like, is this a show? Yes or no? And you would read off 3 descriptions of shows, and the other team would have to pick which one is the real show.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you can just go to Cirque du Soleil's website and steal their copy. And most of their shows, you would believe someone made up, but they're always the real ones. So I don't want to give away the game, but always pick the Cirque du Soleil show as the real one. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. Just realizing that, and Baritones of Love was written to be put on boats and stuff. That was great. We did it at the Las Vegas Fringe Festival and went like Best of the Fringe. And then we got the charts written and did it once with the full band and stuff. And then COVID hits. But I have this, again, this is an opportunity. And when things swing back, I really do believe when things swing back, they are going to swing back hard. And there is going to be, people are going to want entertainment, and people are going to want people who know what they're doing. So you've got to have material ready to go when when those doors are gonna. It's not time to, in 6 months. It's not time to write something. It's time to have something right now that you're starting to get together. So when the opportunity comes in 6 months or 5 months or whatever it is, that you're like, here, I got this. What do you need?
Yeah,
and so ready. That's my big, yeah. Stay ready, so you don't have to get ready. So that's my big game talk. We'll see if it all, if I'm on the bread line in 6 months or if I'm a shows. We'll see. But I just wake up and brush my teeth and say my prayers and make the bed and go to the gym, and like, just, you got to keep on going, not be so. And also, you also have to understand your own limits and not expect so much of yourself, and sometimes realize it's okay to stay in bed. Maybe today it's hard. We're going through a once in a lifetime, and how many times can it be said? And being kind to yourself and self-care is so important in a time like this, because this isn't the time to stress yourself out and beat yourself up, because that is not going to get you anywhere. But also, you can't be too lax on yourself. You got to keep it going somehow. But also realize that things may fall off on the edges, and maybe that's okay.
Yeah, thank you for all that insight. Wonderful. And let's move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
My own self-doubt.
Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
All free advice is seldom cheap. Ferengi Rule of Acquisition 59. But also, I will say, if I had to give some real advice to someone starting out a career in Las Vegas, I would tell them to take Desert Inn.
Yes. Third question. What is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre-COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
Going to the gym and praying, saying my prayers.
Fourth question. What is your best resource? Whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast, maybe a piece of technology that you found is helping your career right now.
YouTube, just in general, is a valuable resource for every artist on the face of the planet.
Agreed.
Whenever I have to sing a song, I always go on YouTube to see what other people have done with it, how other people have covered it. And I'm singing a song every week at this cabaret, at Kenny Davidson's cabaret. I tend to do like a different song every week. So I want to see what other people have done with it. And also it helps me learning. I learned Hedwig and the Angry Inch on the Stairmaster watching James Cameron Mitchell. Is that his name? I don't know. Whoever the original Hedwig was. They had his original off-Broadway performance on YouTube. So I
Really?
just on the Stairmaster and watched it. Now I didn't steal, his performance, but I did learn the lines because I'm an auditory learner. I'm both, but I'm super auditory learner. So yeah, or I'll get if I have to learn a song, you can Google the lyrics and watch them on the treadmill. How you can, and never mind how I use it to get to sleep, meditation. There's those English panel shows I was talking about are up on YouTube. That's why kids are so good these days. Because when I was growing up, the best you had was like one cast album that you could listen to see what the artist had done with the song. And there's no way you could watch dancers. But now, if you were a 10-year-old dancer, you can go on and see the greatest dancers in history, their recorded performances on YouTube, and learn from the best. And the same goes with singers and actors. Just your ability to, at the tip of your fingers, to see what the greats have done with a piece of material, and then to learn from that is so valuable. So sorry to go off on that tangent, but I just am
Oh,
such a big fan. I know
yes,
it
that's
sounds
so
stupid,
good.
but
It's so
YouTube, and
important.
even with the commercials, it's just, I don't need, so Google me on YouTube. You'll see me sing some great songs.
Yeah. Fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
I would have started going to the gym much earlier and stayed with it. And I would have, instead of hitting the West Coast right after college, I would have gone to New York and just tried, seeing what happened. Because I took off for the West Coast immediately after college. And maybe it might have been nice just to take a swing at the Big Apple.
Yeah. And the last question. What is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry that you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Showing up is 90% of the game. So many people just don't show up because they're scared, they have their own self-doubt or whatever. And so much of the game is just showing up. And it's like writing. Just put it on paper. So much of it is just putting it on paper and stop fighting with yourself. Oh, is that funny? Is that the best line I could write? Is that the smartest thing I can do right now? Just put it on paper and go back and edit it later. But so much of life and art and everything is just doing it and just getting there, because so many people stop themselves on the way. So if you can just get there, you've beat most of the mother effers. So just show up. That's
Perfect.
my
I think that is such incredibly insightful advice for everyone out there. And to wrap up this interview, Enoch, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Please keep your eyes and ears open for the Tiger Cycle project, which will be virtually available soon. And you can find me on Instagram at the Robot Buddha. You can find me on Twitter at the Robot Buddha. Again, the Robot Buddha. And I keep people up to date on there. And like I said, search for me on YouTube, Enoch Augustus Scott. You'll find some of my delightful renditions of songs. I have a sort of unique song styling that's a lot of fun. So check that out.
Brilliant. And for everyone listening out there, I have put the links to everything Enoch just said into the description of this episode. Enoch, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your journey.
Thank you so much for having me. I love this. I love podcasts. I listen to so many of them, and I love this art form, and I love to talk about myself. So this was a win-win for
Boom.
me. I really appreciate it. I hope someone can maybe learn something from my version of the entertainment American dream.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't miss an episode. I have a new guest 7 days a week. Every guest drops more value and insight than any other resource out there, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a rating and review. Also, be sure to head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.